one village, one town, or one city.
We will pick that up probably in the first days. There are some who believe we can stop it there by moving certain drugs in.
We have this incubation period for pathogens that can go from 3 days to 3 weeks before you have symptoms. Much of your society is going to be infected before you ever know it.
With air travel and transport, it'll be around the globe within days or weeks.
As news broke that people were dying of an incurable infectious disease, many government leaders might close their borders and international travel might grind to a halt.
All of this would be very much in our face, on the news, in the newspaper.
First is going to be mass panic. People getting on the telephones, calling people to find out if there's anyone selling any kind of pill, any kind of gas mask.
And with no way to stop the spread of infection, it would be in our backyard in days.
Now imagine it's Kansas City, and you're comfortably in your home in Chicago, watching it on TV and thinking, it's coming. It's going to be here in Chicago.
If you knew an incurable deadly disease was spreading in your neighborhood, how would you survive? Would you go to the supermarket for food, ride the subway, or take the bus? How would you react if a person near you began to cough?
You're going to be constantly bombarded with the thought, I might die, I might get infected, and that person that just passed me might be the one.
The gut-wrenching challenge of holding a child in your arms who's dying of something for which there is no help would be overwhelmingly difficult.
Hospitals would be overrun with the dying and the dead, and hopes would surely turn to scientists who would be racing to find a cure. Right now, it can take 6 months to make a vaccine, if one can be made at all. By then, billions could already be dead.
We might get the solution eventually, but not fast enough.
Yet whether it's a lethal new influenza or a man-made synthetic disease, modern medicine will still be our best hope for survival.
The biotechnical revolution is without question a dual-edged sword. We're going to see enormous advances in biotechnology in the next decade. The unfortunate side is, to virtually all of that biotechnology, there's a dark side.
Most of the threats we face come from the progress we have made in science and technology. The number is likely to increase in the future with the development of new technologies and new ways things can go wrong. Although the chance of a disaster to planet Earth in a given year may be quite low, it adds up over time and becomes a near certainty in the next 1,000 or 10,000 years.
Coming up, the #1 threat to life on Earth.
Tonight we've survived cosmic calamities, terrestrial terrors, and microscopic menaces. Now it's time to face the #1 threat, and it's not the stuff of science fiction. It's happening as we speak. There is widespread scientific agreement that this is the most immediate threat to life as we know it. Meet the enemy.
I'm Dick Williams from Kansas City. I'm a trucker, and I've noticed in my driving now that I'm seeing armadillos in places where I've never seen them before, much farther north than I've ever seen them in the past. Why the armadillos are moving north? I don't actually know the answer to that.
My name is Barbara Levine. I'm a retired elementary school teacher. Well, this was the plant that meant the most to me. This Japanese anemone was always very important to me because I knew that as soon as that bloomed, it was time to pack up and get ready to start teaching again. And now here it is, the middle of July, and it's blooming. I don't understand it. I know that something is not quite right.
Around the country, people are noticing subtle changes in their backyards, slight variances in the natural world that have climate experts concerned.
We see springtime coming 2 weeks earlier. We see less snow in the mountains. We see heavier rainfall. We already see 8 inches of sea level rise.
The planet is changing before our eyes, and it's going to have big practical sociological impacts, which we don't understand yet, but we can see that they're going to be big.
Some of the environmental trends that are disturbing scientists are hard to notice, but others are far less subtle.
The average number of Category 4 and 5 hurricanes that we see each year globally has nearly doubled in the last 30 years. We're seeing more forest fires. We're seeing Greenland melting faster than we thought, West Antarctic melting faster than we thought. That's all bad news, and it is all happening at once.
Add it all up, and scientists agree that what we are seeing is the beginning of a planetary climate shift that has potentially dire consequences for life on Earth.
Global warming is a misnomer. Climate change now is used because it's not just the rise in temperatures, it's everything else around it. The more powerful windstorms, extreme precipitation events, more flooding, sea level rise, everything else. It's not just warming, it's this whole portfolio of hazardous phenomena that we're going to have to face.
Every top accredited scientific institution, from the EPA to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change to the National Academies of Science and even the Pentagon, agree on 3 things. 1, climate change is real. 2, we humans are spurring it on. And 3, left unchecked, it has the potential to escalate into the largest global catastrophe mankind has ever known.
Scientists can never be certain. That's one of our weaknesses, as you well know. But the probability of this changing the Earth beyond recognition is so high that any practical, reasonable person would treat it as if it were a certainty.
I think this threat of human-induced global warming is largely manufactured. I don't think it is real.
Does global warming exist, or is this just a liberal scare tactic?
There's no scientific consensus about what causes global warming or how it will affect our lives.
I find it extraordinary that anybody can regard global warming as climate change as a debate. Clearly, it isn't a debate.
There's no credible debate about whether it's warming and about whether it's because of human activity. That's very clear.
You have the entire climate science community pretty much on one side, and on the other side you have what must now be 6 mavericks who are pretending it's not happening.
It's a hoax.
A total hoax?
Total hoax. It's an outrageous lie.
Every time you address the Holocaust, you don't bring somebody in that says it didn't happen. And we're at that stage now. We have Holocaust deniers, we have climate change deniers. And to be honest, I don't think there's a great deal of difference.
Is there any doubt among scientists that global warming is occurring, that it's dangerous, and that humans are causing it to happen?
No, the debate is over.
Since losing his bid for the White House, former Vice President Al Gore has been spending most of his time on this issue, in the press, on the page, and even in your local theater.
I am Al Gore. I used to be the next president of the United States of America.
Gore says this isn't the first time we've seen the interests of big business come into conflict with such a widespread scientific consensus.
The illusion of a debate has been purchased with millions of dollars a year spent by a few of the largest and least responsible polluters who want to fool and confuse the American people.
Do you believe nicotine is not addictive?
I believe nicotine is not addictive.
I believe that nicotine is not addictive. I believe that nicotine is not addictive.
It's exactly the same thing that the tobacco companies did after the Surgeon General's report provided an end to the debate over smoking in hell, and yet for decades they were able to purchase these quasi-scientists who would say things for money.
Well, can you say that you don't believe, or there is no conclusive proof that cigarettes are harmful?
I would say that.
Today, everyone knows that cigarettes are highly addictive and can cause cancer, but many believe the cause of global warming has been obscured by a disinformation campaign waged by some of the big coal and oil companies. However, it is no secret among scientists what is responsible: a gas in our atmosphere known as carbon dioxide. But what's so bad about CO2? Carbon dioxide is the most prevalent of the so-called greenhouse gases. That's the part of our atmosphere that traps the sun's rays, allowing only about 30% of the sun's heat to escape back into space. Without our natural cozy blanket of CO2, most of the sun's heat would escape, and our planet would literally freeze over. On the other hand, if you added too much carbon dioxide, the atmosphere would absorb more and more heat until the Earth began to resemble Venus. Average temperature, 900 degrees Fahrenheit. By analyzing ancient Arctic ice samples, scientists have been able to track both the temperatures and the CO2 levels going back thousands of years. This data shows periods of natural warming and cooling, but one trend is indisputable. Whenever the carbon level rises, the temperature rises as well. Fast forward a few 100,000 years to 1900, when in the middle of one of those natural warm periods, something changed. Mankind suddenly started producing massive amounts of CO2.
Today, as your program airs, we in human civilization will put up into the atmosphere of the Earth more than 70 million tons of carbon dioxide or global warming pollution.
In one day?
In one day. Every single day.
As it has for millions of years, the planet's temperature is following the carbon dioxide level.